you cannot assume that people automatically trust your church. And so the first thing you have to do is set about, we are going to build trust in this congregation for what God is doing through this church. If you ever come across as needy, you only do that if you don't believe that God's going to take care of your church anyway.
You changed the philosophy, you changed some practical things, but what was the outcome? Like, what did you guys end up seeing?
So from the day we decided we were going to try these and figure this out, that next year, our giving grew in amount by 64%. We saw the giving per person go up 45%.
Guys, today I'm sitting here with Copper Nelms from For Church Agency. They are experts at helping churches cultivate a culture of generosity. And I believe that you guys consulted Pastor Marvin Sapp.
No, we did. No, we did not. We did not. We absolutely did not.
I'm sure you guys might have seen the clip
that's where you were gonna go with that.
Yeah. The clip of like, hey, lock the doors.
Yeah. It hurt my soul when I saw it, because again, I grew up in a multi-ethnic charismatic church, and I'm like, no, Pastor, no, Pastor, no.
Oh, dude.
Pastor, no, don't. Yeah. Pastor, please.
Yeah. Well, for me, like, it wasn't too out of the ordinary. Like, oh yeah, like this is like I've heard, I didn't hear it directly, but like I told you, whenever I was at CFNI, they would say, oh yeah, Mama Frida, which is the founder's wife, she would do that on prayer nights, and it's like, hey, like, we got to raise $10,000. We're not dismissing, like, until we raise that money. Wow. And her heart was in the right place, but it's like, these are college students who are here full time.
Yeah, that is definitely not God's going to provide energy. Yeah. Let me say it that way. And that's, so I don't know if he laughed or sneezed. And that's the thing that, like, it's like, Pastor, please, no, don't do it.
Yeah,
don't do it, Pastor, please.
Yeah. We also, not trying to justify it, we don't know the full context.
Yeah.
Of everything there.
Yeah.
And what the funds, and I'm not trying to I'm already trying to like backtrack what I'm saying, because like obviously it's not a good look. But like, if we're gonna straw man, like devil's advocate, we don't know the heart behind all of that, and you know, maybe there's this really big need, and they like.
I think
they needed something.
I think that, because let me be very clear. Let's handle the Pastor Marvin Sapp. That man has ministered my soul growing up. I grew up in a charismatic church, so he was. His influence was ever present everywhere. So I got nothing but positive things to say. I don't know what possessed the man to say that. I really don't, dude. I don't know, man. I can tell you this, like, it's like, to back, I think, to the other point, like it speaks to just, I think, a lack of understanding of where we are as a culture and as a society. I think that's what it speaks to more than anything else. Like, you don't want to be a meme, dude.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to become a meme. Like, you bring up the social media thing. Have you read, shoot, I just blanked on me. It's about how algorithms influence what we like. It's, oh shoot, I can't think of the name of it. He's a guy, he's a writer for The Atlantic, and it's a book. Anyways, it sent me, I'll look it up later. It sent me to an existential crisis, dude. But he basically points out that we don't even know what we like anymore. Like he pointed, like, one of his things was, where it kind of sent him on the writing the book, was he's this journalist who has the freedom to work in all these coffee shops, and he thought himself very cosmopolitan. He was like, I am part of the elite, this and that, all those things. And so he found himself loving this style of coffee shop. And then he would go to literally different countries. Like, he talks about going to Japan or South Africa or Germany or wherever he happened to be for that time, for the writing of the piece he was at. And he would look up for the coffee shops and go to the coffee shops to write, because that's where he found a good place of writing. And every one of them looked the same. He was like, why? And it hit him when he's like, why am I sitting in the exact same coffee shop in Tokyo that I would be sitting in Manhattan? Wait, what is going on here? And it sent him into this almost existential crisis.
You would think culturally it would be really different.
But because of how, like, it's almost like everything flattened and everything has become the same everywhere because everything has to appeal to a particular format that is global. And so when that happens, we lose the ability to really understand our sense of taste and really understand, like, it honestly, man, it's even to an existential crisis. I actually started really examining, what do I really like in life? Like, I've got to figure out what I really enjoy, because the thing has so much control over what we think we like. And I think we have to be really aware that is going on. Not if it's going on for me and it's going on for everybody. Like, why am I into the style of clothes I'm into? Why am I into the expression of worship I'm into? I mean, what are those things there? And this is a really good example. Do you remember the article that came out recently, last 6 months, about how all worship music right now is coming out of 5 bands?
Yeah.
This is that. There's a reason that's the case. It's that speaks to those 5 churches, those 5 church band worship bands are making, is speaking to people, but it also is speaking to a lot of people everywhere, to where everybody feels like they have to adapt for it to work. And so, because they'll just ask the question, why aren't we playing these songs or this and that? And it's an adaptation for the sake of effectiveness. And if it has that much influence over, like, even like the style of worship they're playing, I mean, it has influence over everything, dude. And so we really have to be aware of what is the cultural narrative that is playing out, and how does that impact how we approach all of the ministry that we do? How does that impact? Do we adapt to the flatness in some spaces? I think we have to in some places. Do we go hyper unique boutique, right? I think we have to in some places. I think you have to figure that out based upon your context. But if you're not giving it reflection and self-awareness, I think you're just kind of riding a wave that you're not even dictating.
Yeah, man. It's crazy things to where I'll have to mentally think, like, in that same vein, like, okay, what is it that I like?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is it? Because for me, I'll be so caught up in life and every just work and family. And my wife's like, hey, what do you want for dinner this week? What's something that sounds good? And I'm literally like, I don't care. Just like, I just need food for sustenance. I don't want to gain weight. Yeah. I know that I like greasy fast food because the dopamine kicks with it. Right. But, like, it's whatever. And the other day she's like, Brady, I need, like, what do you even want? Like, what do you like? And I had to stop and think, and like, what do I like? What do I?
Dude, it's wild.
It's being very self-aware. And so to bring it back to, like, ministries and churches, I think that viral clip is kind of crazy because it went beyond just, like, the church world. Like, TMZ was talking about it, and I think it's perfect timing for us to have this conversation, because the whole reason I wanted to have you here is just to discuss, like, how can churches talk about giving and generosity and increase their donation revenues without having to tell people, like, hey, go lock the doors and we got to raise all this money, or, without the same old.
Yeah.
And, and so wanted to have you on.
Sure.
Copper Nelms, for Church Agency. Excited to have you here, man.
Dude, I'm happy to be here, man. It is a joy and pleasure.
Tell me your story. Like, how did you end up in the position that you are now,
Sure.
helping churches, and what led us here?
Yeah, sure. So I have the great fortune of being a 3rd-generation pastor, which is awesome. My grandfather replanted, maybe is a better word. We would use that now. I don't think he would have said that back then. This was in like 1969 or 68 or whatever it was. The first non-segregated church in the county, or even the east side of Atlanta to that point. And I got this great joy of growing up in that environment. My dad took it over in the early 90s. I don't know specifically. And so I got to grow up in this really wonderful environment. I know pastors' kids are always like, I was a pastor. It was great, man. Like it was, grew up loving the people of God. Like I grew up loving the church to this day. And it was this point where like, I'm going to devote the majority of my life, at least vocationally for sure, to just seeing churches flourish, man, because I love the people of God, believe in the church. And I got that from my dad and my granddad, dude, and my mom. So yeah, grew up there and on the east side of Atlanta. After college, met a man named Leonce Crump, who said, hey, I'm planting a church. Do you want to come? And there's a lot more goes in that. I'm obviously oversimplifying a lot of things. And my wife and I really felt the Lord wanted us to do that. And so I left my job working for Apple, working for a church and went to work for Apple full time while we helped plant this church in downtown Atlanta called Renovation, which is now called United, and spent, Lord, I'm going to say 15-ish years kind of pulling that out of the ground and navigating all of the wonderful trials, the wonderful highs, the wonderful lows of just figuring out how to plant a multi-ethnic church in an urban environment in the city of Atlanta. And it was amazing, man. So did that for a long time. And then COVID hit everybody, right? And so we were in a really unique situation where we had just bought a piece of property right next to anybody lives in Atlanta, been there, right there where the Brave Stadium's at. And just a hand of God, 14 acres, this amazing piece of property that we got for 144,000 square feet. We got for $4.5 million, I think is what it was. And the property alone was worth 11. We were like, this is clearly where the Lord wants us to go, right? Just a miracle on top of miracle, and ended up being that. Cool. We bought that property. It needed to be substantively renovated. And so we sold the property we had, the building we had downtown, bought that, went portable. We're supposed to be portable for 6 months. And then COVID hit on March 15th of 2020. And we had to stop meeting physically, convert our entire ministry to digital in 72 hours. And it was a wild ride. The issue we found, though, is because of where we were in the particular environment was we couldn't physically gather for 14 months because there was no CO on the building yet. And contractors had just stopped coming. And so we have this now wonderful piece of property and we can't physically. And so again, like every other church during that time, everything got hit.
Yeah.
And so Easter 2021. Yeah, Easter 2021. We just move in. We did not have the CO yet. We did it illegally. It's fine. They never came and found us. We moved in.
Yeah.
It did that. And then we have this interesting issue where we probably had 65% new people at the church. Like the church was 65% new. Now, they did a lot of stories, a lot of data, whatever. It's a varying degree. We were on the top end of that for a variety of reasons, partly because we had just moved. And so all the people who were going to move with us at the time were like, I'm now not going to do that because I've been disconnected for 14 months.
Yeah. So what was, for context, what was like the average church size, like Sunday morning attendance?
Sure.
Pre-COVID.
Pre-COVID Sunday morning attendance, let's call it around 700.
Yeah.
Across several services. We came back to, let's call it 250-ish. I might be wrong on that.
Yeah.
But that sounds right. Yeah, and brand new. And again, I don't want to call it like it. I don't know that anybody really understood how big their church was for like a year after COVID.
People counting online attendance. Like that's.
I mean, you count it because those people matter, but it's like it's not.
They scrolled past a live stream. Does that count as the
conversations? I'm sure everybody was having, us included, of like, what do we do with this? Like, I know we need to engage it, but like, what do we do? So figuring that out, it was a whole bunch of stuff. But part of that was, again, there was. So we came back and we had this. Obviously, the team rallied around. We have a pressure we've got to figure out how to form a church again. We're a brand new church for a fact. And And so one of the things that we ran into, though, was because of those particular financial circumstances, we had a building we needed to pay for that, and a staff we were trying to keep on. We had to let go. I think I had to let go half the staff over the course of that time, but the rest of it, like, we have to do this, right? But we have a brand new church who doesn't even know us yet. And so I remember going to our senior pastor, and I said, look, we can't run a capital campaign. It would be, one, the mood's wrong. Like, let's just call it what it is, man. The vibes are all off. Two, it would be unwise, and I don't think it's gonna be helpful. Let's see if we can build generosity within the church itself. Let me try. And we came together, he and I, we worked on this like hand in hand, and started doing some things and trying some ways about actually trying to make generosity and as part of the natural way that you engage your spiritual life. Not something that we're asking you on a Sunday, but something that is just understood and normative to being a Christian within the context of this church. Because it's, yeah, I mean, I don't know if you want to go like philosophical on why that matters, but
yeah, let's jump in.
Okay, so let's pause on the story for a minute. So, like, I think everybody, like any person that's ever worked in a church or has any understanding of like trying to lead people spiritually knows that the context in the States is greed, consumption, these things. Like, put the name on it you want to name it, right? That is the ethos, I would say this, the principality or God of the day, right? That consumption is worship in this environment, right? If greed and you call it life maximization, using all you have for you, whatever that is, every time you buy something, it's a spiritual practice. I know, like, we don't all think that way, and I have a hard time thinking that way sometimes, but the reality is, if that's the culture you live in, if greed is and consumption is the point, every time I go to Amazon, it is potentially feeding into that, right? Using all you have for yourself. Cool. We all get that. We're dealing with consumption. There's actually a really great book. It's not even that anymore, I don't think. I think he's a professor out of UCF. Courtwright's his last name. It's called The Age of Addiction. Have you read it? Mm. It's a phenomenal book into the culture that we live in. The general premise is this. Vices and addiction have always been a thing that people have tried to use for selling, but we've now made that the normative means for selling products and the normative means for existing in the American culture, right? The ability, like, we know, everybody knows, there's study after study. The phone is designed to be a dopamine drip. That it's designed to make you addicted. And that has made its way into every single thing that we exist in within the culture. Is like the way you succeed is not by getting people to consume, it's by getting them to overconsume. It's by getting them addicted to your thing to where they just have to have more, okay? So if that's the environment we live in, then what we do with our resources is a unbelievable testament to where our spiritual life is. I mean, we can go like biblically, like, just to tie this into an easy thing. Jesus said it, where you put your money, your heart is, right? It's even more so. Like, but the culture that we live in makes generosity an act of rebellion against the culture, because it's telling you not to. And so when you learn to be generous, you are literally rebelling against the culture of the day, which is wild to think, right? Like, I'm a kid of the I'm a kid of the 90s, and so I didn't think, like, all of the songs from Rage Against the Machine, that generosity was going to be what they were talking about. But it really is, man. Like, it's an act of rebellion to be generous in our culture. So if that's the place we live in, how we navigate these spaces with the people that God has called us to lead is going to be fundamental to the spiritual health of the church. And so we wanted to come at it in a way that was the point, not raising money.
Yeah.
That spiritual health was the point, not raising money. And so when you really begin to ask the questions, if that's the goal, you begin to ask questions like, okay, so when someone gives to a church, what does it mean for them? Like when someone gives for the first time to your church, what are they saying? I don't even think before this, I don't even know if we had considered that question of when someone comes, be it a quarter, be it whatever, right? Whatever the amount is, what are they trying to say to us when that happens? Because they didn't have to do that. Like the church is one of the most unique environments that you can be fully involved in it and never technically give to it monetarily. You can reap all the benefits and never invest in it. And that's a good thing, right? So what is it saying when someone decides to take that step of the thing that the culture wants me to use entirely for my own benefit, I'm going to invest in God's house?
Yeah.
That's a substantive question. And that changes how you approach the entire method. Like one of the things we found out in the process, that specific question was, when someone gives to your church for the first time, what they're actually saying is, I want to be seen here. Because on average, it could be anywhere from a month to 6 months. It just depends on the person, right? But when that happens, they're saying to you, as the people who work at the church, I'd like to be known now. Like I'd like for you to see me and acknowledge that. And so when you contact that person, when you go to that person, it's like, hey, we love that you're here. We love that you love this place. This is so great. And so it changes the entire interaction because it's identifying what they're doing is an act of worship and an act of identification for them. And so you use it as leaders of a church to go, hey, I would love to be more connected to the church. So we begin to look at basically the entire process of really addressing what does it look like? What does it mean to build generosity into a church? And the first thing we had to wrestle with is that we don't have trust anymore. It's kind of the first thing we talked about. You cannot assume that people automatically trust your church. And so the first thing you have to do is set about and set in your heart and in your systems and in your communication, we are going to build trust in this congregation for what God is doing through this church. And then you build everything towards that goal.
Yeah. On that specifically, what are some things that you typically see in churches that would cause someone to have a lack of trust that they might not even be thinking about? Like, let's speak a little bit more into that.
Sure. So this is going to take I'm going to take a kind of a marketing angle at this because that's kind of how I think. When someone is approaching you in any environment to buy something, to give your money towards something, your resources towards something, if you feel like they need it, you're immediately turned off, unless they're family.
What do you mean?
So let's pretend that there's a really great entrepreneur called Daniel Priestley. He's an Australian cat, just brilliant dude. He calls this with or without you energy, right? He's like, if you ever approach someone trying to raise money and they don't feel like you're going to do it without them, they're immediately turned off because you're like, oh, they're really, really needy. I don't know if that's going to work out. And so if you ever come across as needy, and this is where there's even like a scriptural backing for this, you only do that if you don't believe that God's going to take care of your church anyway. Right? Every Sunday when you approach that moment, it shouldn't be as though we're going to collapse today if you don't act. Because our trust as leaders in the churches is not in that. It's in what God can do. Dude, I mean, again, if you've lived as a Christian you've lived in a Christian for any length of time, we've all seen miraculous things happen. I've literally seen $100,000 checks show up in somebody's mail. Literally seen that didn't know it was coming from. It happens. I've literally seen people they've come up to me and go, hey, I was just praying and the Lord felt like he told me I needed to give you this. And he gave me the money. It was exactly what I needed for like new tires on my car when I didn't have it. We've all seen that. God provides. And if you don't approach the moment with any sense of if God's going to provide no matter what happens in this moment, it's going to come across as though I'm trying to manipulate money out of you, because needy people manipulate. And so you have to approach that moment with absolute trust in what God's going to do, what God can do and provide for your church. And that's not what happens most of the time, particularly if you're like, you're a church planner looking at like, we've got to figure out how to instill generosity, because most of the time, people who jump on launch teams don't have a lot of financial resources most of the time, because you kind of got to be a little crazy or young to jump on a launch team.
That was me.
That was me, bro. That was me. I was married with no kids and did it.
Same, yeah.
And so it's good. We were awesome. I had no cash back then.
Yeah.
I was 20, Lord, I don't know, mid-20, whatever it was. And decided to do it and pulled the trigger, and it was great, and we loved it. But I was not overflowing with financial resources.
They're taking risks because they have nothing to lose.
Exactly, right? So for someone who has financial resources, that comes across, and again, it's just a standard like marketing thing. If you come across as needy, it's immediately seen as distrust or untrustworthy.
Yeah, it's like whenever you have a family member, it's like, hey, like we really need to borrow some money and X, Y, and Z, and I can neither confirm or deny that we might have some extended family, maybe on my side of the family, maybe on my wife's side of the family, depending on whoever watches this. But there have been situations where that's come up, and there is this sense of distrust based out of their need. And it's like, okay, are you really going to use this towards what you're saying you need it for? Yep. Or same thing like when you see a homeless person on the side of the street asking for money, it's like, look, I want to help you, but I also don't want you just to go take this and go buy meth as soon as I give it to you. Like if I just give you money. Yeah. And so I totally see where you're coming from. You're kind of opening my eyes to like not coming at it as a place of need. Yeah. Well, again, you go to two ways. One, the natural human behavior thing that we feel every time we feel that, but also secondarily, primarily, we fundamentally believe, or say we believe at least, that God provides all our needs, period. That God builds his church. If I don't believe that down to my bones, when I'm approaching a moment and inviting someone to be a part of what God is doing in my church financially, it's going to come across differently. But if I come across as, God's going to do this, I'd love for you to be a part. I think it would be great for you to be a part. Like, there's amazing things that God is doing. That comes across very differently than if I don't get this next how much, I don't know that we're going to be able to keep the lights on. Yeah. That's like, that immediately speaks of a distrust. So that's just one way that you begin first building trust within your congregation before you ever start raising money or anything. And again, there's a host of different ways you can do that, but that is fundamentally the place where we started. Is we have to establish a deep level of trust in this process. Now, the issue we're into, and the thing that actually caused us to build systems around it, was that we started growing like crazy, both numerically and financially. And so this was back, you guys started meeting again, Easter 2021.
2021. Yeah, we started meeting again. We kept growing. Like, it was in a really beautiful, wonderful way.
Yeah, that season people craved community.
It really was like, we just need people. It's like, we need people. Come on, we need people. We need each other. We need people right now. Let's get around. Let's go. Come to my house, that kind of thing. And so we realized that because we had so many new people coming in, is that this was never going to be a one and done thing. We had to build systems, language, culture around the idea that generosity is a natural part of your spiritual life. That it is one of the ways, and honestly, in our context, one of the primary ways that God is going to continue to shape your heart towards his. And so, we started building systems around it and just saw amazing, wonderful, amazing, beautiful things happen. Like, and this is one of my favorite. Like, I'll talk about the financial gain in a second, but this is one of the things that like I might get a little emotional thinking about it. I remember the first Sunday, because one of the things we started doing was celebrating people who gave for the first time. Because, again, going back to the thing I said, that is an evidence that person, no matter the amount it is beginning to take a step in combating the prevailing culture of the day. So we celebrate that. And it's also a sign that someone's saying, I'd love to be part of this church. The community's growing, right? So we celebrate it. And I remember when standing up on our stage and saying, hey guys, this last month we gave, and I don't remember, let's call it 42. I have no idea. And everyone erupted.
We gave 42.
Like 42 people gave for the first time.
Oh, that's awesome.
Last month. And everybody in the room erupted in joy.
Yeah.
Like that moment, man, dude, I'm like, we've done something here.
Yeah.
That we've turned something that felt icky to everybody, like all the time, to this is a moment of celebration and joy for our church. Like that to me is,
because typically, like when you hear like, oh, pastor's preaching on tithing, then it's like people get uncomfortable. And so you guys, one of the practical things you did, you started just like announcing on Sundays, like, hey, last month we had this many people that gave and invested in the church for the first time. Come on.
So I even take the scripture that kind of guided it, right? So 2 Corinthians chapter 9, I think, is probably the most informative text for our context on how to approach giving. Because it's the only place in the Bible I have found that says don't give. It's the only place, like I think, like there's a handful of things in the Bible I don't think have like governors on them, like love being one of them. Jesus never, like the Bible's very specific, love. Well, what if they're your enemy? Love them anyway. I think forgiveness is another one, right? But how many times a day? 70 times 7 in a day. Like just, there is no level of forgiveness we shouldn't have, right?
Yeah.
I think generosity and giving is on that spectrum there because this is the only verse, 2 Corinthians 9:7 through like 9.
9:7. I'll read it. Please stand for the reading of the scriptures.
I'll do it, but we'll mess up the camera shot.
It says, each one must give as he has decided in his heart, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver.
Yep. So let's unpack that. I'm not going to like preach a sermon or anything, but let's specifically. Each one must decide in their own heart what to give, which means that what you give on Sunday or whenever you give to your church has little to nothing to do with your pastor. It's between you and the Lord. You must decide in your heart what to give. Now, this is why I think, before I go to the rest of it, this is why I think that text is so important. We don't know exactly what the church at Corinth was saying or accusing Paul of. But based upon what we read in those epistles, it seemed like they were saying things like, you're just out to profit off of us. You're just taking this money and abusing it or whatever, because he was coming back with things like, I never asked a dime from you, that kind of thing. So we know that there was some sort of accusation coming their way, which means they didn't trust him. And so he approaches the text and goes, each of you must decide in your own heart what to do. I'm not going to tell you what to give. That's not my job, right? There's other places in there where it says, what I want for you is joy from this. This is what I want for you. I want this to be added to your account, right? So each one of you must decide on to give, not out of compulsion, right? Which means that you should never try to get someone to give anything as a pastor. Never. That's not your job. Your job is to tell people what God is doing through your church and to build trust. And then have them go decide, ask the Lord what to do. Because God loves a cheerful giver, like a heart filled with joy when they give, which means that the act of giving, whether it be on a Sunday morning, whether it be automatically recurring out of your bank account, whatever that is, whether it be some cat on the street, whatever the thing is, that act should fill your heart with joy. It should be a celebratory moment going, man, look. It could be for a variety of reasons. One, it could be, look at what God is doing through my church. Or look how God is freeing me up from the constraints and the chains of our culture. Look at whatever the thing is. It should fill your heart with joy when you give. It should not be out of compulsion. And so with those particular verses, and like that's one of the ways we kind of approach the situation. That I'm not, like if you come to United Church, nobody's ever going to ask you to give anything. And this is one of the ways that we actually go about when I consult other churches. I'm like, stop asking people to give, dude. invite them to join in what God is already doing. Invite them to be a part, and then tell them to go ask the Lord what to do. Our job is to encourage people to be obedient to the Lord. That's it.
Yeah.
So
for you guys, you have all these new people that you're basically you basically replanted a church.
Oh, dude, absolutely.
Like,
that's why I renamed it.
And you're starting over. You changed the philosophy. You changed some like practical things, but like, what was the outcome? Like, what did you guys end up seeing?
Sure. So let's do some hard numbers. After this set in, because it probably took a year and a half to get in. But from the day, no, sorry, I want to say, I take that back. I'm trying to think through all the specific numbers. So from the day we decided we were going to try these and figure this out, that next year, our giving grew in amount by 64%, which was above what we had projected. I think we had projected, like, based upon like people coming to church, like a 20% growth or whatever it was. We were at 64% above what we had projected.
And just so I understand, because it's easy to look at giving numbers the year of 2020 and be like, yeah.
No, sorry. This is 2020. I would say this is 2022 to 2023.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, 2022 to 2023, I believe, is the actual year. So yeah, it wasn't like, oh, look, COVID was terrible. No, it wasn't that. Like,
I was like, dude, everyone's giving was up 60% in 2021.
Solid point. No, we had been in for a year, and then we had kind of looked at what had happened. It's like, oh, this is what's going to happen. And it was 64% above the 20% increase we had actually thought we were going to have. And then this happened the next year, which was super cool, dude. The next year, we saw the giving per person go up 45%.
Wow.
Right? We had the same number of giving units, is what they call them, which I hate that term, by the way, but that's the term I know. It's actually like we consider them just families in the church, right? The same number of families in the church. And their giving had gone up 45% per family, which was what we were crying when we saw that. Not because of like the amount or whatever. It was, man, God is really working in the hearts of people here. And so, yeah, dude, that was when we realized that we had figured out some systems and some processes that actually worked, that were actually able to help other churches. Because we would have conversations with sister churches, with friends, that whole thing, and we would talk about generosity or whatever, and ours were outpacing everybody's. We're like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, man, we're building trust and instilling joy in people. Like, I don't know what to tell you, Doc. And so it was really, really cool, man. That was one of the, like, it was really like a moment of celebration, because we were able to catch up to where we needed to be and get beyond, without ever actually having to run a capital campaign, which was awesome. Because I got,
So you guys didn't do like, hey, like we're like, because a traditional capital campaign is like, hey, we need to raise, $200,000 or whatever.
Yep.
And sometimes like we did it when we were doing our new building and stuff. And so we had things in the lobby, and it was almost like a ticker, like, like when we've done it. And so you guys didn't do any kind of formal capital giving campaign, and you saw how much increase?
65% increase in giving year over year, above 20%. And then the next year it was a 45% increase, but all of that was coming from the same amount of families.
That's huge. So without necessarily like growing in numbers as far as like attendance and new people coming in, that's huge, man.
It was so beautiful, dude. It really was beautiful. It was this amazing, really joyful thing. And then it allowed for, because I'm not against capital campaigns. Like, capital campaigns are really good. They're just bad at helping a church become generous.
Yeah.
Like, they don't do that inherently. Like, running a capital campaign to help your church become generous has an assumption that your church and everyone coming to it already completely trust you.
Yeah.
And that, I just think it's a bad assumption.
Yeah.
I just really do.
So you're telling me people don't trust the church?
Oh my God, they don't trust the church? What? Yeah, they don't trust
Yeah.
No, they don't.
So I've heard it before where churches will do like this church does a challenge where it's like, hey, we should ask you to be faithful and start tithing for 90 days. And if God doesn't work a miracle and God doesn't provide at the end of 90 days or whenever, we'll write a check and give it all back to you. What are your thoughts on that? Have you heard of churches doing stuff like that before?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea if it works. Again, I think it's a contextual thing. I think you shouldn't start there. Again, I want to go back to the thing I keep saying is that if you assume that our culture, the new people coming to your church, while they may like you, don't inherently trust you yet, that's a really hard thing to sell.
Yeah.
Right? It's a really hard thing to sell. It can be done. I'm not against it because I've seen, I've clearly it's worked for people. So I think that's a contextual thing. My question would be, where do you think the development of the heart of what, and I like using this word because it's just pretty. I think it's Proverbs 11:25 in a particular version. The development of being a soul of blessing, or just like generosity in the heart of people. I just like a soul of blessing. Sounds really pretty. And people having trust in what God is doing through your church. How do you think those things have come together in your congregation? If you think it's at a high rate, that's something you could probably try. I think that's a decent thing to probably do. I don't know that it would work on or be a good fit. Let's say it that way. I don't know it'd be a good fit for people under the age of 40. I don't think it'd be a good fit for that because and again, this is almost pure marketing, dude. It comes across as a little kitschy.
Yeah. And that's my thing too, coming from like the digital marketing world. You see all these money back guarantees and all of this. And I know that's not the heart behind the churches.
Yeah.
And also too, like, who's really going to go to the church and be like, hey, I want my money back? Yeah. Like, what kind of person is going to do that? Because you're kind of making that assumption.
Yeah.
But like, I get it. Like, I get it. And I know that's not the heart behind it.
Yeah.
But I think you're right, man. It just comes down to trust.
I really do. Like, it's, so like in today's, let's call it marketing attention world, right? There are two things that every organization has to have. This is not just churches. This is everybody. You have to, one, capture people's attention, but two, build trust. And that second one is as important as the first because information is free. Nobody knows what to do with it though. Like anything I've said right now, you can literally just go ask Gemini and people can find out if it's right or wrong, right? So information's totally free, which means that trust in the source matters as much as people even knowing that the source exists. And so you have to, every organization, specifically churches, has to be about building trust in every single thing you can think of. Because it's, everybody has so many different things that are trying to convince them of what the right way is. And there's again, dude, we're swimming, drowning in information, and we have no life raft of wisdom and what to do with it.
Yeah.
And so if a church can build trust, you have this unique opportunity to actually help people figure out what to do in the ocean of information that they're swimming in every single day. So yeah, I think it really does come down, like you have to do those two things.
Yeah. So people might be thinking, all right, that's great, man. I'm glad that your church, did all those awesome things, but how do I know it's going to work for me? And
Sure.
you're kind of helping other churches implement this too, right?
Yeah, man. So we started, my co-founder, which is my best friend / pastor, the guy I was telling you about, we started a agency around this primarily because we kept getting asked to help churches anyway. Like the people we know is like, can you come? I was like, yeah, sure, we'll do it. And so I actually left staff, last year. I think it was August of last year, to go do this. Sorry, just so everybody clear, like, oh, he left staff. I'm still at my church. I preach. I'm never leaving my church. Everybody's wondering, like, oh, something happened. No, it's great.
Same thing. I was youth pastor
Yeah.
and stepped down to do ChurchCandy full time. Still there. Still part of the team.
We have a running joke, and I don't know why it is there. We've got to ask why. There is a dear church mother who sends in a prayer request every single week for me, and we can't figure out why. She's like, oh, like anytime, because I play bass for our church still, and they're like, oh, it's just good to see Pastor Copper on stage today. I'm like, where do you think I've been? I'm here every week. It's really funny. We laugh about it. Anyways, so yeah, to go help churches really begin to figure out how to build a culture of generosity within their church. And it's just been really, really cool. Like I was on a phone call yesterday with the church we're working with in New Jersey, and the first month they brought me on, which was last month, I guess they started in February, but like the first month they implemented what we were doing was their largest giving month ever in the church, period.
Wow.
And it's just a month in. And it's because it's not this unbelievably complicated thing, because we build trust in relationships all the time, but we just don't think about it on that level all the time.
Yeah.
And so we've just worked out some like key points and like systematize some things that we can actually, so we could, easily implement it in other places to help churches do that. And it's been really, really cool, dude.
Yeah.
So
yeah, man, I love it. I love the heart. What are some other like practical things on, what can churches do? What are some things that they can implement to just like first steps to start gaining that trust and developing more generous hearts?
Sure. First steps. You know what? I'll give you one right now that anybody that does this is not doing it. I promise you, your giving will go up that day. I can almost guarantee it.
I want to take notes. I'm doing announcements in a few weeks, and
I'll almost guarantee it. It will be a little weird the first time you do it. Okay, but I'm gonna say where it comes from after I tell you what to do. Actually, give people an opportunity to give in the moment in the service. Like so let's backtrack. Because everybody gives you the phone now. Most of the time, what happens is that we say, "Hey, we're going to give today," and the person on stage doing it talks through the entire thing and then just moves on to whatever's next. You didn't give anybody an opportunity to do anything. You never stopped talking. So instead of doing that, do all the things and then go ahead, and then just have the band play or sing a round of the worship song and literally just walk off stage and don't talk. We're not walking off stage, walk somewhere and stop talking and let people do it in that moment. This is where think of it this way. We used to pass plates.
Yeah.
We stopped passing plates.
Which we pass them, but like
but nobody's giving that way anymore. They're doing it that way, right? So instead go, hey, we're going to give you guys an opportunity right now to go ahead and do that. Band's going to play for a second and literally just stop talking for 20 to 30 seconds.
I need to get, I'm going to shoot Vance. Do you know Vance Rush from Overflow?
I know. Yes.
Okay. So they have the tap to give
like
system for their churches that work with them. This is not sponsored by them. Yeah. I'm going to shoot him a text, be like, hey man, you need to fork up some cash, because I think that's because yes, you do the QR thing or whatever, but I Apple Pay everything.
Yeah.
Like even we went to Europe this past year and started doing like, I was surprised if we got all this cash out, like euros and whatever. I didn't even need them. I didn't use them. I just run it back to the bank when I came back.
Yeah.
Because every single place did tap to pay. And and it was just frictionless.
It's great.
And so
I would just say give 20 seconds for people to actually tap.
Yeah.
Just like literally just stop talking. Because if you're talking, again, this is like a communication thing, right? If you're talking, people naturally know, despite what they do sometimes, naturally know that to not be paying attention to you is disrespectful. You're on stage. Yeah. So stop talking. Just shh. For 20
Let's
seconds.
be honest, my generation, they're going to get on their phones anyway.
Again, everybody's on the phones anyway, and it's fine. And I get that. But I'm telling you, like actually having a moment, it works. Because it's think of it as like the digital pass the plate, right? You're actually giving people an opportunity to do the thing you're asking them to do. And it like that overnight will help. We figured out, so I would say this. So So when we were working through this, asking like the questions that we said were, what does the actual gift mean, right? When someone gives, what are they trying to say? We realized through survey, conversation, yada, yada, all the ways that we did research, that there are essentially 3 big moments of when someone gives that you need to pay attention to. It's the first gift, it's the 4th gift, and it's the 12th gift. When that happens, you need to be making those things a substantive, like called out moment for that person, because it means something different. So we talk about the first gift, let's talk about the 4th gift. If someone's given you church 4 times, they consider that church their home. That's their church home now. Why are we not acknowledging that? Like what? Why would we not go, we're so glad you love this place, right? Yeah. And then also as like a follow-up to it, like make sure that they're as plugged in and as connected to the community as they want to be. So yeah, those are the big 3 moments that you've got to hit to make sure because again, so think about it from that person's perspective. They've given for the first time for whatever it may happen to be, and all of a sudden they get a call from a pastor, from a leader, from a whatever that goes, "Hey, we saw you did this, for the 4th time." Oftentimes that means that someone's made this church their home. We're so happy that you're here.
Is that what you're saying? Because like I feel like if I was that like associate pastor,
Mhm.
campus pastor, and I'm in charge of calling people that have given the first time or the 4th time, I'm thinking, how do I make this phone call without coming off weird? And it's like, hey, thanks for your money. Like,
Yeah.
what would practically?
So again, it's addressing the underlying reason why, because it's not about the money. The money is an indication to what's actually going on. So I'm just for me, I'm just using that as a proxy for something else. Because here's the thing, dude. Like and this is one of the reasons I think it's so important that we get this right, is because in the incredible transience that most people in the States have, they're in and out. If you got kids my age and you live in the state of Georgia, travel ball is a thing you are competing with every single weekend. So people in and out, right? So how are they actually saying they belong to your church? This is a substantive way that they are letting you know that they are part of your church. And so you use that as the proxy for the thing you wanted to do anyway.
Yeah.
But the beautiful part is you don't ignore that happened, because again, this is where it all comes together this way. We want people to know that generosity is a standard way, a normative way of becoming a disciple of Jesus. It's just normative for us. So we're going to bring up the fact that, of course, you gave for the first time. You just took a step down the journey of following Jesus and being more like him. And that's one of the ways that we do it. Great. We're so happy that you gave to the Lord for the first time through your church. Thank you so much. We just want to see how you're doing. We use this as an indication. So like, I even say the phrase in the script that I would write for our church at the time would be, "Hey, we found our team let us know that you gave for the first time to the Lord through your church, through our church." Oftentimes this means for most people that they just want to let us know that they're here and they really enjoyed this place and they like this church. We just want to say thank you for being here and want to make sure that you are getting as connected as you want to be, and let you make sure you know the next steps for becoming part of the community. When you do that, again, like I said, it makes the money not the point, but a necessary means of discipleship. And that's what we're actually after.
Yeah.
And people appreciate it. I've never had someone, I'm not, dude, I made the calls. I never had someone say to me, "How dare you call me because I gave?" They know they gave. Like, they know what happened. We're the ones that feel weird. And so, in fact, almost every time I would get "Oh, wow. Thank you. No, I'm doing great." Or, "You know what? I actually had a question." Or, and this was kind of fun. "Honestly, I just loved you guys so much and I love the way what happened. I just decided I wanted to give it. I actually live in a whole different state." Well, praise God, right?
Yeah.
We're so glad that it ministered to you so much. Great, whatever. But it becomes a much more fun conversation that way, because here's what I know about almost like every pastor I know. actually wants people to get connected to the community and flourish. And so why are we ignoring one of the most significant ways in our context to identify that? So yeah, it's not, it doesn't have to be weird.
Yeah. No, man, I love that. I love that. This is so valuable. Like, even for me, I'm wanting, and I'm gonna tell Dustin, my video guy, like, as soon as we're done, I'm like, hey, send me that file before we post it. I'm gonna send this to my pastor and our staff. Like, hey, we need to start implementing some of this like ASAP.
Yeah.
So what does it look like if a church hires you guys for consulting or with the agency? What does that look like?
So we have a framework that we've kind of established, and we'll come. We have a framework, and you just basically it's called a product because in marketing you have to productize services because that's the way the world works, right? But basically, you get that. We call it a generosity experience overhaul. You can come get it, and we'll send one of our guys to come out there, meet with your team. Because one of the ways this has to work, and it's one of the things you just can't do digitally or at a distance, is that our team wants to come on site and get an experience of who you are as a church. Like it's really, really important that the words you use don't sound like me. They sound like you with what you're trying to do, right? And so we come into churches and we help them figure it out. We got a framework that we work through and kind of implement to build those things out. Yeah, and it's great. We love doing it. It's been a really beautiful thing to see it work. Just in all the spaces, man. And again, not only because churches are raising a lot of money. Sure. Yeah, great. It's because in the places where this starts, the congregation, the church begins to see generosity as a joy. They approach that moment on Sundays differently. It's not what's going to happen now? Oh, is he going to do this? Is he going to what? It's never that. It's like, hey guys, this is what's going on.
Yo,
let's go. And hey, if this ain't your cup of tea, I ain't here to convince you. I remember, dude, I would literally say it when we first got started. My job today is not to convince you to give anything. My job today is to ask you, what is God asking you to do today? And invite you to be obedient. That's it.
Yeah.
Do whatever he's asking you. And if it's literally going to cost us money because it's $1 and it's going to charge us more via Amex fees, I am totally fine with that, because that's obedience to the Lord. And that's what I want for your heart. And so, yeah, so that, I mean, again, you can find us. I mean, I'm the only Copper Nelms on the internet.
We'll link to your website and Instagram and all that below. I'm gonna definitely be pushing for our church to reach out and get connected with you. But
we'd be happy to serve, dude. We have a couple of guys we've kind of built into the framework and built into the system who we're all pastors. And we really do love this, man. Like, it's one of the places, like when we started here. There'll be other things that we end up doing as an agency, but we wanted to start here because we saw the great need. Like, part of it was, I think, and we kind of have been circling around this. I think it was just, we had to figure out a way to develop generosity in a church for people who weren't over the age of 40. Now, it worked for people who were over the age of 40, but specifically in just our context. And that's one of the reasons I love seeing that thrive in churches, man. I really, really do. So.
Awesome.
Yep.
Sweet. Well, Copper, you flew all the way out of here from Atlanta,
Georgia.
Flying
great
back
state of Atlanta. Flying back in, I don't know, however many hours.
Yeah. So we'll
The
go.
great state of
Let's wrap this up. Call it a day. Grab some Tex-Mex and head on out.
Let's do it.
All right.
Noon.